Sam, what do you make of the conversation we had? And as an early investor, do you think that Robinhood should be selling itself? Has it proven and kind of had its chance to prove itself and fallen short?
Look, it's a pretty entertaining conversation. I'll give you that. I mean, like, look, I think what's happened and what we've seen through the pandemic is tech is extremely important and on tech narratives. But if early pandemic and kind of the last few years has been the story of pure tech plays taking off and doing great things and really growing quickly, I think a lot of the late pandemic in the last few years has been about legacy players actually getting their tech stories straight. So, you look at streaming, the last few years, the growth in streaming wasn't Netflix, it was Disney, right? You look at retail, the growth was Amazon to a point, but it was really more kind of legacy players like Walmart. And so you are seeing kind of, I think, these legacy brands step up their tech games. And maybe the story of tech comes in, brand new tech companies, and takes over everything changes. So I think that begs the question of when you take a Robinhood, which again, let's not forget, was massively innovative, did incredible things, and reaped the benefits of that from a growth perspective. What their next play is it merging with crypto? As the lines between those two ecosystems blur, maybe I think that's a reasonable step. Is it diversifying financial products and quote unquote growing up as you guys are framing it? Maybe, but there's no question there has to be a second act, to go from being whatever it is, a $10 billion company to a $30 billion company.
But the question is, can Vlad Tenev do that second act? Is he the right person to execute on that? Or is it, your point is so interesting, Sam, is it a legacy bank that could come in or legacy player and, create that second act better than the founders could?
I'm a believer in founders. Founding companies from zero, this is what we do, and watch CEOs do over and over and over, is really hard. It's far harder than, being placed in to operate an existing company. And I think those are the guys, especially with the incentive, you can knock people having consolidated plans where they control companies, but the incentives are very clear and aligned. They want a second act just as much as anyone else, the founders. So, I'm a guy who always bets on founders, but you got to be willing to take risks. Make big moves, and also kind of be reasonable and rational about where the world is and kind of how to move forward. So, would I bet on those guys to do something discontinuous, impactful, really move the ball forward more than anyone else? Absolutely. But there's no question that when you go from starting a company to running a public company super fast, when you grow really quickly, it requires you to learn really quickly, and the game changes fast.